Nobody knew his name when he walked in. That was not a problem. That was the plan. Damien Voss arrived at the Grand Alpha tournament on a cold Thursday morning, carrying a worn duffel bag and a number printed on a white card, 11. Dead last, the lowest seed in the entire bracket. He signed his name at the registration desk, handed back the pen, and walked into the main hall without saying a single word. Around him, the place was already full of energy. Other fighters were warming up, shaking hands, laughing with their coaches. Cameras were following the top seeds. Sponsors in clean suits stood near the entrance with clipboards, noting who to watch and who to ignore. Music played over the speakers. The smell of sweat and fresh canvas was in the air. Not one person looked at Damien. He found a quiet corner near the back wall, set down his bag, and sat on a wooden bench. He did not stretch dramatically. He did not shadowbox to catch attention. He just sat there, breathing slowly, looking at nothing in particular. To anyone who passed by, he looked like a man waiting for a bus. But there was one person who noticed him. Her name was Lena Reyes. She was a ringside medic who had worked the tournament for 6 years. She had seen every type of fighter walk through those doors. The loud ones, the nervous ones, the ones who pretended not to be nervous, and the rare few who were simply, genuinely calm. Damien was the last kind. She could tell the difference. She watched him from across the room for a moment. There was nothing flashy about him. Medium height, lean but solid. A small scar above his left eyebrow. He wore a plain gray shirt and black shorts. No logo. No sponsor name. No hype. He just sat there like a man who had already decided how the day was going to go, and he was simply waiting for the world to catch up. She looked away. She had work to do. The tournament format was simple. 10 fighters. Single elimination. Win and move forward. Lose and go home. The champion at the end would earn the only title that mattered inside this building, Alpha King. It was a title that had been given to only 12 men in the tournament's entire history. Every fighter in that room wanted it. Most of them had been training for it for years. Damien had been training for it for most of his life. He just had not told anyone. 3 years earlier, he had been a soldier, a good one. He served without complaint, followed orders, and looked out for the men beside him. Then, one bad night and one dishonest report later, he was discharged. Not for what he had done, but for what someone else had blamed on him. He did not fight the decision in public. He did not argue or beg. He simply left, collected his things, and disappeared. He found a job at a construction site on the edge of the city. He woke up at 5 in the morning, worked until sunset, ate whatever was cheap, and slept in a small room he rented above a laundry shop. On weekends, and most evenings after work, he drove to an abandoned warehouse near the river and trained alone. No coach, no sparring partner, no audience. Just him, a punching bag he had built himself from old canvas and sand, a pull-up bar he had welded to a rusted beam, and 3 years of silence. He had not entered the tournament to prove something to anyone else. He had entered because he was ready. He knew it the same way a person knows when water has come to a boil, not from a timer, but from watching it, being close to it, feeling the change happen. He was ready. His first match was against a fighter named Cole Holt. Holt was seeded second overall. He had 47 professional wins and a following of fans who filled the seats whenever he competed. He walked to the ring, wearing a red corner towel around his shoulders like a cape, and the crowd rose for him. Damien walked out to polite silence. A few people clapped out of courtesy. Someone near the back called out, "Go home, wild card." Damien stepped through the ropes and stood in his corner. He looked at Holt once. Just once. Then he looked at the center of the ring and waited for the bell. Holt came out fast. That was his style. Pressure from the first second. Force the other man to react. Make him feel small. He threw a combination that most fighters would have scrambled to get away from. Damien did not scramble. He moved sideways, just enough, and let the punches pass close to his face without touching him. He did not throw anything back. Holt attacked again. Same result. Damien moved, avoided, said nothing with his body except, "I see you." The crowd started murmuring. Holt's coach called instructions from the corner. Holt pressed harder, angrier now, throwing with more force. He wanted this to end quickly, and it was not ending. Then, on Holt's 7th combination, he did what Damien had been waiting for. He reached a little too far on a right hand. His left side opened for just a moment, and Damien moved. What followed took less than 4 seconds. A short left that redirected Holt's balance. A right that found the exact place it was looking for. A brief clinch that brought Holt's weight forward. And then Holt was on the canvas, and the referee was counting, and the crowd was completely, utterly silent. Holt did not get up. The referee waved it off. 43 seconds into the first round. Nobody cheered, not yet. The room was too shocked for that. People looked at each other, then back at the ring, then at the man in the gray shirt standing quietly in the center of it, not raising his arms, not pointing at the crowd, not celebrating at all, just standing there, breathing. Damien picked up his corner towel, walked back through the ropes, and sat down on the bench. The rest of the first day passed in a blur of other matches. Damien watched some of them from his corner of the hall. He studied the other fighters without appearing to study them. He noticed how the man seated third dropped his right hand slightly after every jab. He noticed how the fourth seed rolled his shoulder before throwing a big punch. A small tell, but a real one. He filed these things away quietly, the way he had learned to file away everything, without emotion, without rush. That evening, as the crowd and fighters filtered out to eat and rest, Lena was restocking her medical kit near the side entrance when she heard footsteps. She looked up and saw Damien walking slowly toward the exit, pressing one hand carefully against his left side. She stepped forward. "You took a hard shot in the second round of that first fight. Let me check that." He stopped. He looked at her the way a person looks at someone they were not expecting to speak to them. "I am fine," he said. "I know you think that," she said. "Sit down for 2 minutes." He paused. Then he sat. She checked his ribs carefully. One was badly bruised, possibly cracked. She did not say, "How did you finish that fight?" She already knew the answer. People like him finish things. Instead, she wrapped it cleanly, taped it well, and handed him a small packet of pain relief tablets. "Thank you," he said. It was the most he had said to anyone all day. "Get some sleep," she told him. He nodded, picked up his bag, and walked out into the night. Lena watched him go. She had treated hundreds of fighters. She had never met one quite like this. The second day brought 3 more matches for Damien. Each one was harder than the last. The fighters were better now, faster, more experienced, more dangerous. The tournament was thinning out, and only the real ones remained. His second match was against a ground specialist named Torres, who had the strength of someone who had spent his entire life preparing for one thing. Torres got hold of Damien in the opening minute and drove him down, putting enormous pressure on that bruised rib. The pain was sharp and real. Damien felt it with every breath. He fought from the bottom, carefully, patiently. He did not panic, and he did not try to explode out from under Torres. That would cost too much energy. Instead, he made small adjustments, inch by inch, until he found the angle he needed. Then he turned things over in one smooth move and reset the match on his own terms. He won in the third round on a decision that even Torres seemed to accept quietly. His third match was stranger. The fighter's name was Price, and Price liked to talk. He talked during the warm-up. He talked during the referee's instructions. He talked inside the ring. Little comments, small words designed to get inside a person's head and make them angry, or nervous, or distracted. It worked on some fighters. Damien heard every word and responded to none of them. He ended the match cleanly in the second round, and as Price was helped to his corner, Damien had still not said a single word back to him. His fourth match, the semi-final, was the hardest yet. The crowd had begun to turn by now, not fully, but partially. Some of them had started watching Damien with real attention, not just curiosity. They clapped when he entered, though not loudly. He won on a close decision after 3 rounds that left him tired in a way he had not felt in years. He sat in his corner afterward and breathed slowly and counted his costs. Lena appeared again. She checked his hand, which had taken some damage in the third round. She rewrapped it without being asked. He let her work without pulling away. "Final tomorrow," she said, not looking up from the wrap. "Yes," he said. She finished, smoothed the tape down, and looked at him. "How do you feel?" He considered the question seriously. "Like I still have something left," she nodded. She believed him. The final was between Damien and Marcus Drell. Marcus Drell was a 3-time champion. He was the reason most people came to this tournament. He was tall, precise, experienced, and almost impossible to finish. His record inside this building alone was 11 wins and 0 losses. He had defended the Alpha King title 3 times. He moved beautifully, calculated perfectly, and never made mistakes, or so everyone said. The crowd filled every seat for the final. Sponsors lined the walls. Cameras were set up at every angle. The energy in the room was different from anything the previous days had produced. Heavier, louder, more charged. Drell entered first, and the crowd gave him everything they had. Then Damien walked out. More people clapped this time, not all of them, but enough that he could hear it, a real sound, not just courtesy. He walked to the ring the same way he had walked to every ring this week, steadily, quietly, without ceremony. Before the referee called them to the center, Drell leaned across and spoke to Damien. His voice was low but clear. "I have watched all your fights. You are good. But I want you to know, nobody remembers second place here." Damien looked at him. "Let us get started," he said. The bell rang. The fight that followed was unlike anything the tournament had produced in years. Drell was everything his reputation promised, smooth and controlled and very, very hard to touch cleanly. He moved Damien around the ring in the early rounds, scoring points, staying out of danger. He was trying to tire Damien out, to make the cracked rib and the damaged hand, and the accumulated exhaustion of 4 fights add up to something. For a while it seemed to be working. Damien was slower in the first 2 rounds. He absorbed more than he wanted to. He covered well and survived well, but he was not winning. The crowd began to settle into a familiar story, the champion doing what champions do, the challenger fading. But Damien was not fading. He was learning. Every round he spent with Drell was a round of reading him, the way a person reads a book they absolutely need to understand. He saw the pattern. He saw the habit. Drell was perfect for 4 rounds in every single one of his fights. In the 5th round, when he felt safe, he moved to finish. That was when the very slight change happened. A touch more speed in his right hand. A small lean forward. A moment when his guard was not quite where it had been. Damien waited. Round 5 came. Drell began to push. He came forward with confidence, reading the situation the same way he always read it. Opponent tired. Time to close the door. He let his right hand go, the same finishing move that had ended so many matches in this building. Damien was not there. He had moved left, taken the punch on his shoulder instead of his jaw, and in the same breath he countered. 2 short, perfectly placed shots that found Drell in the moment his weight was forward and his balance was committed. Drell stumbled. Damien did not hesitate. He followed with 2 more, and Drell went down. The crowd made a sound that was not quite cheering, and not quite silence. It was something in between. The sound of a large number of people experiencing something they had not expected, and did not yet have words for. The referee counted. Drell got to 1 knee at 8. He tried to rise. He could not. It was over. The room broke open then. People were on their feet. Some were shouting. Some were clapping. Some were just standing with their mouths open, looking at the man in the gray shirt standing in the center of the ring. The tournament director, Elias Vorn, came down from his booth. He was a precise man who said very little, but when he crossed the ring and held the Alpha King belt out toward Damien, there was something in his face that looked almost like respect. Damien took the belt. He looked at it for a long moment. The gold, the engraving, the weight of it. He looked out at the crowd, at the cameras, at all the faces turned toward him. Then he set the belt down gently on the mat. Not angrily, not as a statement, simply because he had already received what he came for, and the belt was just an object. He stepped between the ropes and walked to the floor. People called after him. A camera crew jogged to keep pace with him. He kept walking. Through the corridor, past the locker rooms, toward the exit. Lena found him near the side door, sitting on a stack of folded chairs, his hands resting on his knees. She sat beside him. For a while, neither of them said anything. Then she asked, quietly, "Why did you put it down?" He was quiet for a moment. He looked at his hands. "Because I already knew what I was," he said. "I did not need them to tell me." She looked at him. She thought about the man who had arrived yesterday morning with a worn bag and a number no one wanted. sitting alone in a corner, while the whole room walked past him without looking. She thought about what it had taken, not just to win, but to stay exactly himself through all of it. "Okay," she said simply. He nodded. Outside, the city was going about its evening. Traffic moved. People walked. The sky was turning dark blue at the edges. Damien picked up his bag, said goodbye, in the quiet way he did everything, and walked out into it. Within 24 hours, the tournament clip had found its way everywhere, the 43-second finish of the second seed. The patient, unhurried way he moved through every match. The moment in the final when he stepped to the left at exactly the right time, and the image at the end, the belt on the mat, the man walking away. People had opinions. Some called it disrespectful. Some called it the most powerful thing they had ever seen anyone do after a win. Sports writers wrote about the psychology of it. Social media argued for days. Damien did not read any of it. He went back to his construction job on Monday. He worked until sunset. He ate a simple meal in his small room. And that evening, when the light was right and the warehouse was quiet, he wrapped his hands with fresh tape, stood in front of his old punching bag, and started again. Not because he had something to prove, because this was who he was. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived in the mail. It was engraved on heavy paper, folded once, sealed in a plain white envelope, addressed to him by name. It was from the tournament committee. He opened it at the kitchen table, read it once, and set it down. It said, "Alpha King, Damien Voss. Let the record show that he entered as a nobody. Let the record show that he left as a legend." He folded the letter. He placed it on the shelf above his bed, beside an old photograph of the military unit he had once served with. People he still thought about, still respected, even after everything. Then he went to bed. In the morning, he woke up at 5. He made coffee, he laced his boots, and he went back to work.